A topic of this research is managers' lived experiences with technology in the mortgage industry during the COVID-19 pandemic. Technology has become a big part of our professional and personal lives, whether we're talking about sending 100 emails a day at work, doing research for a school assignment, using online libraries, or spending time on social media. Mostly, my recent work experience has been related to the mortgage industry, and technology has been an essential part of it as well. We all saw how this pandemic forced people to adjust and adopt new processes, and the mortgage industry was not an exception. That is why I believe this research exploring managers' experience during that time can help industry professionals improve their leadership skills and create new approaches. The purpose of this research was to explore how managers describe their lived experiences of technology usage within the mortgage industry during the COVID-19 pandemic. I was able to experience some of the changes firsthand, but it seemed important to find out what other leaders were facing during challenging times. We used the purposive sampling technique. The participants were older than 25 years old of age and had at least 5 years of managing experience, including the time during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. This approach helped to ensure that interviewees had lived experiences with technology in the mortgage industry when the pandemic started and managed afterwards to see the results of all changes and adjustments. While information about the mortgage industry during the pandemic is available, and there is research providing a description of managers' challenges during COVID, along with research about COVID's impact on technological and social aspects, it is unknown how managers describe their lived experiences with technology, specifically in the mortgage industry during COVID. There is a lack of qualitative data describing managers' experience merging all three elements: mortgage industry, technology, and management. The research was based on Levitt's system model, also known as Levitt's diamond. This framework created 5 main themes in the literature review: the mortgage industry during COVID, technology, tasks illustrated by processes, people or employees of organizations, and structure represented by the management styles and procedures. The reason why the qualitative methodology was chosen for this study is that it provides a distinctive depth of understanding of human behavior. It ensures descriptive vividness during the interviews and theoretical connectedness during the analysis. It helps understand the phenomena and draw conclusions that could be helpful to industry executives. This qualitative descriptive phenomenological study aimed to explore how managers describe their experiences. The qualitative approach usually takes a rigorous amount of data collection, and this research took several months to complete. When we talk about the research design, we see that it reflects an individual's experiences. Participants' responses emphasize their own points of view, which can vary between individuals. Phenomenology allows a researcher to peel back many layers and have a vivid conversation, obtaining subjective perception that will help to capture common features. This method encapsulates the participation of relativity as a whole and creates a unit of analysis of general participants, meaning that while the experience of each participant depends on their perspective, their company, and the specific type of mortgage business they're engaged in, this method helped to determine the main concepts that aligned with the theoretical framework. So while there are definite differences between, for example, a direct lender and a mortgage accounting firm, they still fall under the chosen theoretical framework's components. This design helped analyze the information collected via interviews. Participants usually provide more descriptive information during interviews versus written answers to the same questions. The phenomenological descriptive design also creates an environment of non-bias, meaning it doesn't matter what my personal experience has been in the mortgage industry during COVID. Interviews represent an opportunity for participants to share theirs. The main research question of this work was, how do managers describe their lived experiences with technology in the mortgage industry during the COVID-19 pandemic? Talking to high-level managers of title companies, direct lenders, mortgage accounting, and Wall Street securitization firms was fascinating. They each had specific but also common encounters they had to face with technology and their employees. The instrument used during the data collection was semi-structured interviews. And while this tool does have several cons, the possibility of poor responses or technical difficulties during the interview, it has many pros that help to conduct this research. Semi-structured interviews provide an in-depth understanding of a person's experience. The interviews included probing and follow-up questions to counter possible poor responses. Semi-structure also provided much-needed flexibility to ensure the information provided by participants was actually relevant. Questions that start with, how would you describe, do not exactly leave a chance to answer with a yes or no. This approach helped to have engaging and truly interesting conversations. After all the data was collected, it was important to create units of meaning. This method then helped to transfer the means to main components, created a general structure, and synthesized the information for the analysis. After conducting interviews with all subjects, each transcript was cleaned up, and I read each transcript several times to practice bracketing. Bracketing gave the researcher a phenomenological attitude, which then created the ability to understand the participants, their experience, and their points of view. The main 5 constituents were determined during the analysis that were mentioned the most by each participant. Here they are. First is the technology issues. Managers and employees had to face. Second is the mortgage processes, the daily tasks that should have been now adjusted. Next one is management of the mortgage industry during COVID. They talked about overall industry situation with the refinance boom that happened, remote hiring process, and appraisal companies' delays. The next constituent is employees' behavior during COVID. Some people thrived during that time. Some barely worked without direct supervision. Some handled technology easily, and some struggled and fought the changes. And the 5th constituent is management and employees' communication on technology. Managers had to adjust to new tools, and not only technological, but interpersonal as well. All managers mentioned a learning curve in technology usage. Some of the mortgage processes had to change, whether we talk about a shift to online mortgage applications or even virtual appraisals. Many managers described the challenges related to the mortgage industry directly. The refinance boom that happened due to incredibly low rates and delays at cost. Interestingly enough, though, some managers noted that they didn't have many changes in the tasks per se. They either already worked remotely or they used technology to its full capacity. But they still had to reevaluate their management approach. All these changes do not exist in a vacuum. Managers had to deal with employees' reactions as well, considering the communication structure had to adapt a new reality. Which leads us to the results. The results of this research described how managers had to adjust to events in a real life environment. It proved once again how people have become dependent on technology. And while there were certain differences in companies, all of them had to redefine internal and external processes and procedures, at least in some shape or form. The communication between leaders and their subordinates shifted based on employees' performance as well. Some managers noticed that productivity skyrocketed when people started working from home. They were putting in more hours, they were checking emails before going to bed at night. Meanwhile, some developed trust issues as their employees were watching Netflix and playing Xbox during office hours, moving their mouse from time to time to show an active status online. And the main conclusion of the research based on the data collected and analyzed is that technology plays a crucial role. It especially showed during the period of time when it was impossible to come to the office or ask a colleague sitting next to you for help when your laptop froze. Technology touched every part of the mortgage industry from both borrowers or clients' perspective as well as business or manager's perspective. As with almost any research, this research also had its limitations. It only reflects managers' personal experience within their specific organizations, and it can be biased and include selective memory. For example, if one direct lender didn't experience any delays, it doesn't mean that none of the lenders did. In this research, we interviewed 8 high-level managers, and in order to obtain more comprehensive data, it is recommended to conduct a similar analysis with a significantly larger sample size. And this brings us to the end of this presentation. I hope this research will be helpful and encourage people to think critically. And thank you for your attention.